European Super League, guys. The last 3 days have been an absolute, excuse my language, shit show. What the hell was going on? I was shocked. Before the Sassuolo game, Maldini said that he had no clue about it. Like, he found out like we did on Sunday. Isn't that just crazy that Paolo Maldini, sporting director, finds out on Sunday? I'll tell you my version. I personally thought this was all a bluff by Perez and that lot to get more like a better deal with UEFA. But then there was a point where it was just like, guys, these guys aren't bluffing. Then, there's some shady stuff going on with the whole, apparently UEFA has been paying the British teams to get out, and without the British teams you can't do this. But this looked for a second like it was gonna happen, and I see. Obviously, I don't want to mention it, but you are older than us, so you've seen more of Champions League glory from the Italian teams. But how does this make you feel, especially thinking about the history and the past of the Champions League? Because obviously, Italian teams, especially Milan, represent the Champions League. Inter has done the triplete. Juve has, Juve. But but yeah, like, how did this make you feel? Did you feel betrayed? Because obviously our teams, apart from Lazio, were in this for a second there. I nearly feel betrayed. What about you?
I'm very unsentimental when it comes to football, because I if I would have been very sentimental, I probably would have stopped following this sport. I think makes 100% sense that Inter, Juventus, and Milan wanted to jump on this. Someone comes, says, hey, you get 2, 3, 150 million euros a season. All of the clubs are bleeding, so they're just yes. I think what I'm for. So I think everyone said everything about it, but I'm for sports and the risk in sports, and I kind of feel that if Inter would go on to win the S word, it would feel nicer because it's been 10 tough years. And if I don't have that risk of misery in football or elimination or relegation, for me, football dies. So that's my more or less only problem with the Super League, that it's not based on sports merits. And I really understand that these guys, say, without these clubs, I'm not getting the money. But I was so confused by the fact that one, they hadn't worked the politicians. Because UEFA, with 2 phone calls to the British government, just threw every club out of the bridge, even spreading false information, because clubs didn't want to get out of the league. But they made it sound like that. So, Boris Johnson in himself involved, and without the British team, this is impossible more or less to do because they are so watched. So that's one thing I was surprised for. And the second thing I was surprised for is that they didn't check the, what would the fans say? What would the players say? What would the coach say? You have a situation, where Guardiola or Klopp and the guys are like, we're so against this that we could even, leave, and the players as well. So that all of that is so strange to me, because, if it was just, to put pressure on UEFA, they could have created a WhatsApp group and, to get up. But now, and so I think I'm not against the idea. I'm kind of intrigued by it. And I really hear what the guys are saying, especially with the loss of money. I know that the younger generations really don't watch 90 minutes of football like I used to do, because it was the only thing I knew. But so that's, I get that. But I think it's been handled strangely. And I really don't like that UEFA comes out looking like the good guys, the guys that care about football, the non-money guys. I puke on that, because now, they've done the new Champions League format that is awful. It's bad for the players. It's more games, probably more big games, but it's more games that they play in an already packed schedule. It's more money for broadcasters to pay. So, UEFA and clubs, of course, get a big amount of the money. But I just think it should have been handled differently. And I honestly, I hold no grudge against Inter for wanting to jump on it.
Mm.
I, I don't care at all. I totally understand them because at a certain point, if it wasn't filthy rich companies running these teams, we'd be bankrupt. So, and those guys are filthy rich for making filthy rich decisions. So if
Yeah.
someone comes waving at you with a shitload of money and you don't say no, I'd be more angry.
Yeah.
So why didn't you jump on the Super League train? You're stupid, you know. So, but I'm against the idea of the tournament in that way,
Yeah.
and the way it would impact football. But I think it has a lot of good things, and I think in the future we'll see it just modified.
Yeah, there's so many really good points you just said there. I think it kind of baffles me as well, the timing of it, because, wait for the season to be over, even to announce this. The fact that so many people were apparently, you never know, but apparently so unaware of it. It's, these guys run multi-million, nearly billion-dollar industries. They must know how to deal with business. Like, how can you, fuck it up so badly? Like the whole
That's strange
communication
as
thing.
well because the blame of all this goes straightly to the clubs. But they, if they were going to handle so many billions, they probably should have founded a company that was handled by Mr. X and Y and Z that could take the blame.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just strange because all the owners were involved. But like Marotta said, of course we didn't know, but the news always came.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
think
it's
Maldini didn't know, but whispers, especially in Italy, always come to your ears. People know everything about everything in Italy, so I think it's just strange because Maldini, he's a sports guy. He's athlete. He's probably one of the best examples of playing fair and being the best and earning it. So it's just very strange, but I kind of enjoyed the last 3 days because I didn't feel alive in this way for so long when it came to football.
Hmm. That's it's a really interesting thought. I didn't think about it that way, but and I also love, you guys might agree with me, how all of a sudden everyone went from COVID experts to financial experts in like 2 days. Twitter, everyone was I define it this way, and excuse me if I say this, but there was two types of people on Twitter those days. It was either football communists, all about romanticism and saving the small clubs and whatnot, or if it was the financial experts who are like, oh no, we got to make this money and whatnot. All I'm saying is, I love how what Evra said. It was just like, you see, as soon as money is involved, everyone gets to speak. When it's about racism, no one gives a shit. It's like that guy from a Rangers game who was racially abused, and UEFA, after what, like 2 weeks, they gave him a ban or something. They should have just. I don't know what to say. Like,
Yeah,
in
I mean,
Italy,
as you were
still,
saying,
yeah.
also the fact that you brought up UEFA, the fact that UEFA comes out looking like the good guys, that's probably the
Yeah.
worst thing about the whole situation. But yeah,
They put Nasser, the PSG owner now, at the head of ECA. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I kind of I don't know Nasser, so I respect what he does with PSG, but he's the guy that broke financial fair play. He broke the transfer market for Neymar. He broke all those stuff. He's getting the broadcast deals with UEFA. He's getting the Qatar World Cup where thousands of people have died to build
I was
stadiums.
I was just googling if he
No,
was. Yeah, he's from
and
Qatar.
no
It's
one, yeah,
crazy.
no one cared about that. But so as soon as people and I love to see that because the English guys are like, yeah, we saved football here and there, but they already have a Super League. The broadcast money that they get, and they're already like Crystal Palace makes more money than Inter, Juve, and Milan because of the TV deal. More like not exactly, but you get the point. So I think the Premier League clubs are already there. They're already in a reality where they are a Super League, and
Mm.
that's because that's why I don't understand now that Schifrin says like we got a lot of help from them. They're good. They are that. They're here. And here's Inter, Juve, and Milan bleeding, and not the same deal. And they of course jumped on the money train.
Mm.
Like it's the discussion gets so strange. Like, what should Inter, Milan, and Juve have done? Like, say no?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when
Totally
you have
agree with that.
when you have a business and they literally tell you, listen, your business for the last 20 years has been dependent on how well you do on the pitch. I'm giving you the opportunity to make a crap load of money independent of how you do on the pitch.
Especially after the pandemic.
Especially, if it was my business, I would have always said yes. Yeah, go
Yeah,
on.
you take it. I think that
Go, Luca.
just quickly, I think the only issue is that it's a smart decision business wise, but since football is a very unique industry where it's so influenced by your supporters, I think they should have at least considered, what the fans think about it. So
Yeah.
totally saying, I'm on board, but first let me actually hear back from my millions of fans who are going to influence this decision. But Ricky, go on, because I kind of interrupted you.
Yeah, no, past days have been pretty hectic. I want to make it clear, like my position, I'm still kind of confused, and I'm not for or against this Super League. I'm trying to understand how everything around is going. We have to consider, as you said, one thing that I don't like is hypocrisy. Is it hypocrisy in English? Yeah. That now they made it look as if these 12 clubs, as Florentino Perez said yesterday, dropped an atomic bomb. And now the UEFA and FIFA are looking as the good guys, and that they're for the football fans and stuff. While we already know that the football system, it's 10 or 20 years that is all based around money, and UEFA and FIFA are, let's say, the real owners of this. I was listening yesterday to Conte after the Inter match. He was just saying about this. And he said something that I agreed with. I agreed with him for the first time after 2014. And he was saying that, in fact, UEFA doesn't distribute the money correctly. And those big teams, those top clubs, especially with the COVID situation, they have more costs and different than smaller clubs. And so... yeah, this was an opportunity. Then, obviously, if we watch it from a football fan point of view, I know that there is merit, which is extremely important, and I'm not saying that shouldn't be considered. But we also have to consider the other aspects, because football is a business, an industry at 360 degrees. So, just that.
I think a big problem today now is the big clubs spend a lot of money on players from the smaller clubs, and that means the smaller clubs signs smaller players from even smaller clubs, and then the even smaller clubs, so just to give you an example, if Bari is in Serie A, that's going to mean they're going to sign Lecce players, right? And that's going to mean that Lecce signs the Taranto players, because they're in the same area. They're going to scout. They're going to want to invest their money, and this whole system is collapsing because nobody has money to spend, right? So the football system needs money, and the money isn't coming from the big clubs anymore, and that means the small clubs aren't spending money on the Serie B players, the Serie C players, the third division players. So the whole football system is standing still, and I don't think the Super League was the only solution, because of course Inter could spend less, Milan could spend less, Juve could spend less. But if you look at Inter, for example, Inter was in a stage, right, where they've just became a stable Champions League team. They've just signed a big coach, a big name. They've just signed Lukaku, Eriksen, Hakimi, these guys. And then the pandemic hit. So it's not like Bayern, who has had, 20 years to build their stability, their project. They rob all the German clubs of all the good players. They get the most money. They can just continue like that all the time. Because it depends on where the club is. Real Madrid, they have that stadium project. That's huge. So the pandemic hits them differently than the English clubs or other clubs. And I agree that they should lower the costs in football and have a sustainable model. But it's very easy to say after the pandemic. Now we know. And I think that's why the Super League clubs are bringing this to the table, because the pandemic has shown that the system is broken and it needs to be fixed, because otherwise football will die. And I'm not talking about Inter, Milan, and Juventus dying, because seeing the amount of fans, they'll always, make a way. But, Atalanta is what Atalanta is today because they cashed 200 million euros from Inter, Milan, and Juventus buying players, and then they, of course, made the Champions League and all that. But their finances are good also because of Inter, Milan, and Juve.
Yeah, absolutely. As well.
And then one last thing I just want to add, which I think it wasn't mentioned, but it's also important because it's something that you build with years and years. It's the status of these top clubs. These top clubs are considered, let's say, top clubs like this because of the years and years of continuous development and investment that they have made. And so I don't want to say it in a harsh way, but if we take these 12 or 15 clubs out of Europe or the national leagues, like if we take Milan, Inter, and Juve out from the Serie A, what do we have? What are we left with? Not much, because these clubs give a very important contribution to the whole European football and to the national football.
The TV money in Italy is big, very much because of the three top teams, and I can honestly say, maybe it shouldn't be that way, because maybe the newly promoted teams need more money. But in the end, Inter and Milan and Juve will always say, hey, when we play on football, there are 2 million people watching. Why shouldn't we get more money? So I think that the whole system is very fragile and very broken, and needs to be improved, because the new Champions League is not good. Is not good at all.
And then very, very last thing, and then we can move on. I see Ale, which is pissed off.
No. I just wanted to say as well that I was reading, because when you guys are speaking, do you see that UEFA said that the English clubs can have more, like Wembley and other in the UK, there can be more Euro games because of how well they behaved because of this thing.
Yes.
Then I think also this is completely nonsense. Like, now it's not because these teams, like, one thing I'm afraid of, it's like the average fan, or like the WIF, if now they think about Juve or Agnelli as the number one enemies, or these teams, like, this is complete nonsense. And also the minacce, how's it in English?
Threats.
The threats they made about not allowing players to be in the national teams. Like, what are we talking about? Come on, do we really have to arrive to this? This is just embarrassing.
UEFA would have also, they wouldn't have gained anything from that. Try selling a World Cup to people without Ronaldo, Messi, and all the top 100
that's just embarrassing.
And now
also, go on.
With how they will treat like Juve and Real Madrid, because I think Florentino is a great president, and the Real Madrid guys love Florentino. Like, why should UEFA come and say, Real Madrid aren't going to play the Champions League anymore, or their players are not going to be? It's just ridiculous, because then Real Madrid's crisis will be even bigger. And if I'm UEFA, like, honestly, even though Agnelli stepped down and Florentino stepped down, I don't want to piss off the biggest team in the history of the club, because then I show that I'm just, everything I said that the Super League clubs, I will be that. And they already are, UEFA, they are money hungry, and they, but they work well in like propaganda and how they move, because they are heavy. You can't say anything, because Jeffrey is on all the day, all the newspapers, all the channels. He's everywhere, and he's, just spitting thing after thing after thing. And people are like, yeah, you're right, you're good, you're here, you're there. It's they work well, and I think I really expected the Super League clubs, with the amount of billions involved, to be prepared, but they weren't. So some of it is because of them.
And then last thing, like the investment Juve made don't look at me like that.
Ricky, famous words. It's as famous. He should get a T-shirt. Was his last thing.
I think because it was about 20 minutes ago when Ricky said, "Yeah, one last thing." Go on.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that after we finish, when I'll be in my bed about to go to sleep, I'll be like, "Oh, I should have said that." No, it's just like Juve buying Cristiano Ronaldo. It's not just an investment for Juve. It was an investment for the whole of Serie A and for the Italian football, and many people don't understand that. And so, just this, sorry.
And just threw that in there.